Okay, in this lesson we're going to learn how to factor trinomials that do not begin with 1, meaning the leading coefficient is not 1. But just a little review, if you have a trinomial where the leading coefficient is 1, then remember we call those a 1am trinomials. So I need to factor this. I'm going to split the x's, and I need numbers that multiply to give me 45. That add up to be 14. 9 times 5. Multiply to be 45, and they add to be 14. So here it's factored. If it's a trinomial and the beginning number is not a 1, the next thing you need to ask yourself is there a GCF? And in this problem, there is a GCF of 2. So remember, we're going to factor that out. Which means I'm going to divide everything by 2, which leaves me with a squared plus a minus 12, and then I have to look to see if the trinomial I'm left with will factor again, and this one will. I need numbers that, I'm going to split the a first of all, numbers that multiply to be negative 12 and add up to be positive 1, positive 4 and negative 3. So now it factored into that. So here's my final answer. But what if you have a number in front of x squared that's not a 1, your leading coefficient is not a 1, and you cannot factor a GCF out? Well, it's still possible that you can factor it, but it's going to take a few more steps. And it's going to we're going to use a new method called slip and slide. So the first step is if you see a trinomial, so like this here, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. The leading coefficient is not 1. But there is no GCF either. So we're going to use this slip and slide. So I'll work this problem as I go through the directions. We're going to slip a, which is the number in front of x squared, to the end of the trinomial and multiply by c, the constant. So a times c. Well, a times c would be 6. So I'm going to put this guy back here with him and multiply it, and which means I'm taking it off the front and I'm putting it into the back. Like so. 2 times 3 is 6. So now I make this last number a 6, and I remove the 2 from the beginning. And now I have this trinomial that we're used to factoring, where the leading coefficient is 1. So now I'm going to factor this new basic trinomial. Split the x's. Numbers that multiply to be 6, that add up to be 5, are 2 and 3. Okay, so now I've done this step, okay, but now I'm not finished. And a lot of students will want to stop here because this looks like it's factored. But you're not finished because this leading number is not x squared, it's 2x squared. So here's where what you have to do more than what we've done already. Divide both of your factors by the value you slipped over in step 1. We slipped this 2 over here. So we're going to divide these numbers, this 2 and this 3, by the number that we slipped over, which would be 2. Okay. Now, I've created these two fractions, so I'm going to divide both of these by 2 and create these fractions. If I can reduce these fractions, then reduce them, even if it goes down to a whole number. And if I can't, I'll show you what to do with those. So this says x plus 2 over 2. Well, 2 over 2 is 1. So that's just x plus 1. And I'm good with that one. This here, though, says x plus 3 over 2. 3 over 2 will not reduce. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to slide this number on the bottom back to the front of that x and put the 3 here. And now it is factored. This happens when it's a trinomial and the leading number is not a 1 and there is no GCF. So let's look at number 2. 3 terms. It's a trinomial. There is no GCF. I can't divide anything out of this, so I'm going to use this slip and slide method. So I'm going to slip this number over here and put it with the 6. So I'm going to take it away from the beginning, and I'm going to put it with the 6 and multiply it. So 5 times positive 6 is positive 30. And now it looks like the ones we were doing last week. I'm going to split the m. Numbers that multiply to give you 30, that add up to be negative 17. Well, let's see, 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. And the only combination I can get a 17 out of that is 2 and 15. They have to multiply to be positive 30, which means they have to both be positive or both be negative, but I needed to add up to be negative 17, so I'm going to make them both negative. So negative 2 and negative 15. And again, you cannot stop here because this is not factored. Even though it looks like it's finished, there was a 5 in front. M times M is M squared, not 5M squared. So this number that I slipped to the back, now I'm going to put it in here, underneath the 2 magic numbers that I found. And if I can reduce it, I'm going to reduce it. And if I can't, then I'm going to slip this number back to the beginning here in front of the M. So for 2/5, I cannot reduce that. So the 5 comes back to the beginning and the 2 stays there. So there's one of my factors. Now 15 over 5, though, that reduces. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So I can just leave it just like that. And now it's factored. And if you want to FOIL this, you can check it, and you should get what we started with there. And we will. I'll let you guys worry about the check. Let's look at another example. Number 3, trinomial. This is not a 1, it's a 6, but there's no GCF. Slip that to the end. So this becomes y squared minus 5y minus 24. 6 times negative 4. Factor it, split the y's. 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 24, that add up to be negative 5 are negative 8 and positive 3. This number that I slipped to the back, I'm going to put this in here and then reduce everything I can reduce. 8 over 6, those are both divisible by 2, so that reduces to 4/3. 3 over 6 is both divisible by 3, so that reduces to 1/2. But I'm not going to leave these fractions now that I have them reduced. I'm going to move the denominator to the front if there is one. So I'm moving this 3 to the front of the y, and I'm moving the 2 to the front of the y over here, and now I have it factored. Okay? All right, I want you guys to try number 1. And also try number 3. Let's see how we do. Well, that reduces to 2. So there's your answer. 3x minus 5 and x minus 2. 9 times negative 2, negative 18. Positive 6, negative 3. Multiply to be negative 18, add up to be 3. Bring this number that we had back down again, the 9. These both reduce. This reduces to 2 over 3. This reduces to 1 over 3. Since I have fractions left over, I'm going to move those to the front. So that's going to give me 3m plus 2 over here. Move that 3 to the front, 3m minus 1 over here. Okay, and as hard as it gets is there might be a GCF first. So trinomial, leading number's not 1, but this one has a GCF of 5. So I'm going to go ahead and factor that 5 out first. So I'm just going to undistribute a 5. So divide everything by 5. That'll leave me with 2k squared plus 15k plus 7. And now what I have left over is a trinomial. The leading number's not a 1, so I'm going to use the slip and slide method for this. I'm going to ignore the 5 for a minute. I'm not going to forget about him. I'll come back to him. But here, I'm going to slide this 2 over to the 7. 2 times 7 is 14. This will factor. Numbers that multiply to give you 14 that add up to be 15 are 1 and 14. I got to bring this number that I slid over to the end. I got to bring it back over. Cannot forget about that. This will not reduce. So this 2 is going to go in front of the K. This reduces 14 over 2 is 7. And then the only other thing I got to forget about, I can't forget about, is this 5. I got to bring it down and make him part of the answer. There you go. That's how to factor trinomials where the leading number is not 1.